Thailand have taken Malaysia as an important country. During the time when the communists infested Malaysia badly, we were very much instrumental to help Malaysia not to lose out to the communists by helping you barricade some of the work of the Communist Party of Malaysia, who have used Thailand as in the southern part to be their base, and that have successfully explained a huge amount why Malaysia did not fall under the domino theory as well. Therefore, we have very good interest in Malaysia. I do believe in our Thai history. During the time when you form your own country with the Federation of Malaya and became the Malaysia eventually, if you ask your Prime Minister, who became Prime Minister, the first one after the Malaysia, he will tell you clearly that Thailand has a huge part to encourage Malaysia along. And therefore we have such an interest. One of the very huge group of companies that I'm part of in Thailand have invested in Malaysia for a long time, back many decades. In fact, that become one of the, if not the largest conglomerate in Thailand. In fact, the personality that played in that time were people who are very good friends of my family, and he's elderly now, but he's still alive today. So you can see that we share both socially, we share the relationship, business, economically, we share the relationship. Politically, there is a lot to gain if we together. So therefore, my proposal is clear, is in a nutshell. Malaysia and Thailand, we should be two twin brothers that work together closely so that we form a core leadership in ASEAN, because we are in the peninsula. At the same time, Thailand is central in relationship with Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. And then, of course, if Malaysia and Thailand together, the rest of the island, like Singapore, Philippines, Indonesia, who are further out into the outskirts of ASEAN, we are centrally located. If we link up strongly and make sure everything is smoothly work together in concerted effort, I think we could be a benefit for ASEAN, let alone ourselves.
That being said, I mean, you say we should, and it's good if we do, but why aren't we doing that? What is stopping Thailand and Malaysia from being, hand in hand and standing up in ASEAN? What is stopping
I think
that?
lack of leadership on both sides who see the values of doing so sufficiently to pay the priority and attention. I would say if you have leadership on both sides who see this, and I gave an interview here in Inspire magazine and said in the outset that we need to forge many links between Thailand and Malaysia, and all the way through the youth link, so that in the future too we can inspire them to think along that Malaysia and Thailand should be very strong partners. I think the reason why we don't do enough and we don't grasp the opportunity, because leadership are too busy and preoccupied with many things, especially their domestic affairs, until they lose out to see the importance of an important synergy that naturally is there. I do have this, and I want to be part of a help to stir the people of both sides, both in the leadership and in the grassroots, to think along that what about what I'm saying here? Thailand, Malaysia, the two together become almost the largest economy together, as on par almost with Indonesia. What if we do that as Peninsula ASEAN, and we can do that in a very good way and forge the plan to move forward together, so that it's all very helpful for ASEAN, which is more and more become a lame duck organization. We may not like to admit it in the political level, but I can see that it become a toothless tiger more and more. We need ASEAN to move forward. ASEAN is beneficial for all 10 countries, especially Malaysia and Thailand. Therefore, we need to do it.
Yeah, so, the thing is, yes, we are occupied with our domestic issues to the extent that we don't see outward. So, who would be the best people to actually advise, the Thai leadership and the Malaysian leadership, look, you got to do more and work together. And this might benefit you domestically also. So who would you think is the best person or the best platform for this?
You know, everyone is equal in value in Malaysia. All citizens is equal in value. Thai citizen is the same way, but not everyone of equal substance in weight. Therefore, in history, there are certain influential people, when they speak up, the nation listens. Therefore, you have to search out those people in Malaysia, iron out, weed out all those who are not so influential, and single out some very important ones. Thailand the same way, and we have one or two individuals on both sides that talking sense, and then the public are hearing it. But because now we are such a huge country with multiple millions of people living, it's difficult. We're not in a village scene anymore where you can shout and people can hear. You got to go through media like Astro, Awani, and other channels, every social medias, every kind of magazine, every kind of conventional media, and speak together in the right tempo. Move forward together so that they hear this agenda. And I am proposing this very strongly. Why not we push forward this link and work out a very deep plan? We do have these many committees working together between Malaysia and Thailand already, but they are in a way very formal, very ritualistic, and there's no outcome orientation in their plan. I do know there's joint development areas of Malaysia and Thailand. We do have joint border committee of some sort. The acronym are so long that I don't even remember. Joint something always somewhere there. And I have been involved in some level in time past when I was advisor to prime ministers. I think, but they're usually formal. The tone set from top are usually not very aggressive in nature to see outcome. I would like to see a change of tone, a change of determination from leadership, especially Malaysia is going through a fresh election. I hope that whoever wins and become prime minister, I pray that the person will see the value of the relationship, the priority of your neighbor, so that together we could work harder in the next few years in your prime ministership. And on the same way, I volunteer to be a small help, if I can, to influence my own country to move forward at the same pace.
Do you think that the people today, with the social media and everything, do you think that the people are actually going to, I mean, we are already, despite the fact that, Thailand and Malaysia are not actually forging an alliance in ASEAN, but the people themselves on the ground, they're already forged, business, socially, politically, they have a lot of NGOs working together. So you were a politician before. Do you think that people are going to move away from politicians and do it on their own?
Let me put it this way. I have this little term I coined called the model of 3 Ps. P1 is called public sector. P2 is private sector. P3 is people sector. I do believe in integration of the 3 Ps, not just silently working on each of the P. Obviously, each P has its own strengths and weaknesses. The public sector has powerful strength in terms of sovereign power. They can coerce law enforcement. They have the budget, from national budget. They have the people working under them. They have rules and laws and regulation that they can make people comply. So they have tremendous strength. We need them to work together to forge this link. The private sector are very important. They are very profit-making motivated and very efficient in their mode of operation. They too are the nuts and bolts of the bread and butter for the people. So therefore, if the economic link is there, it's helpful and it's important. But people link, as you said, are there, but they are not as organized, and they don't give us the felt impact as much as it should be. I do propose that the 3 Ps have to work together in concerted effort in a clear blueprint how to forge this link of Malaysia and Thailand. It cannot just be haphazard. It cannot be incidental. It cannot be just spontaneous. It has to be a rough, big plan, allowing the evolvement of the minute, smaller plans to evolve out that is capture the best opportunity in time. But that kind of plan need to be worked out in succinct way that is really clear, so that leadership will be able to deploy all this and cascade all this down all the way through all the different big and small organizations. The tone has to be set so that in a few words, Prime Minister to be say something on TV and say, my priority is Malaysia and Thailand working together. And then we go and tell our Prime Minister, hey, you have to reciprocate or even initiate before the reciprocation of Malaysia, saying something that Malaysia is important, which I think can be done so that the whole nation's both sides here.
You've been in the government, so you obviously know that we Asians are very good at blueprints, carrying out the blueprints. I mean, we might be...
We are good in planning, but we are very bad in executing.
So what is your take on that? I mean, all this, there's too many bureaucracies, there's too many lingering and, talking.
Honestly, we are not any worse than the Westerners. Westerners also has a lot of blueprint that not carried out fully, but they know how to doctor it and make it look like they got some results.
Right.
The Asians are a little bit more less able to produce some show outcome.
Right.
But to be honest, execution is the toughest because execution requires management capability. And management capability is not just a science, it's an art. So you be able to use every opportunity, every people you have, every circumstances, so that to get your objective done. Management is rare. Top management that can really carry out good things are not easy to come by. Look at the easiest management that we could do in companies. If I say it like this, it may shock the business community. Managing business is the easiest thing you could do already. Because everything has something to go for you, and just how many companies are doing well. Most of them don't do that well. It's harder to manage the variety of people with variety of motives and in different kind of incentives you can't set because you don't have the jurisdiction over them in everything. The public sector is an arena require huge amount of capability, but usually we don't have the right kind of capable people to be there. Usually money draw the best to the business world, which is the easiest world to manage. The tough world to manage is the public sector. We don't draw the right people because you pay them peanuts, and therefore peanuts, then you get monkey.
Right.
So monkey become politician rather than people who know what they should be doing.
Right.
We suffer in the entire world when
So
we have too many monkey politicians.
Right. So is that, okay, coming back to that, is that why ASEAN is what it is right now?
ASEAN is what it is right now for many reasons. One, it also has to do with personalities that are there, that sometimes we don't have leadership. We take rotated leadership among the 10 ASEAN countries. And each chair of ASEAN each year would be able to do whatever they want to do to move ASEAN forward. So personality do rotate. And that therefore you have a chance of either win or lose, depends on whether the personality behind the chair is really pushing. Number two, by the design of ASEAN, it was designed in the past, 50 years ago, to be organization for common defense in a way. And it evolved into various kind of community, including economic communities. The blueprint has been drafted later, and the blueprints that drafted are great, but it has put in some principles that's impossible for ASEAN to move forward together. For example, you can only move together when you have consensus. How many times can you have 10 countries consensus at all time? If there's no consensus, you can't make a decision, you can't move ahead. So what can you do then? That is, you already inbuilt some structural and regulation and value system that is impossible to manage. So that's why one of the reasons why ASEAN is moving very slowly, and it come this far, it's a miracle already. I think there is a need for reform of ASEAN as an institution if you're serious.
Right. And which part of ASEAN would you suggest first to be reformed?
You know, the economic part is simplest because it's tangible.
Right.
It meets all the needs. And therefore, if you move with the economics part, the others are more or less would follow suit, but slower. Whether it's socio-political, whether it be the cultural issues, all these things will come slowly. It's harder to measure. But the economic part, we need to be very serious in working harder together. And the mechanism within ASEAN, in my opinion, is very difficult to resolve. Whenever we have problem between member countries of ASEAN, and we need outsiders to intervene, to arbitrate between us, that means the inner mechanism is at fault.
So you seem to say that, you know, there's so much of democracy in ASEAN that is just not working at the, I mean, do you think that it would be better if we ASEAN emulate the UN style where the bigger powers veto whenever there is a stalling?
Not quite that. I do think that UN has a historical relationship of the 5 superpowers that won the World War, and therefore they were vested with interest to have veto power. I don't think it's democratic enough there, the UN, at this current time.
But do you think that
ASEAN shouldn't do that. ASEAN couldn't do that. No one will allow ASEAN to do that. Just imagine if Thailand and Malaysia decided, okay, let's be the two brothers that we can veto. No one will accept that. So it's not possible. We didn't start that way. What I'm trying to say is that we need to be able to work out together so that ASEAN has internal agreement that mechanism inside ASEAN will prevail over external mechanism. So whenever we have difficulties among us, we would not avail outside help. When we will work it out among brothers, so that ASEAN becomes something tight and strongly knitted, and that is important. Therefore, we need to set the proper scene, whereas every leaders have to not think like Malaysia first, Thailand first. You know, we give due respect to Donald Trump, who think America is big enough to be first, but we can't think like that. We have to say ASEAN first, and then Thailand second, Malaysia second, then we could work. Leadership who are in charge have to be willing to be sacrificial and say, we are not doing for the interest of our own country alone. Anything that is not beneficial for the rest of ASEAN, we wouldn't do.
But is that wishful thinking? I mean, knowing very well Asians, I mean, the ASEAN countries, you know, we are most of us are third world poor countries who trying to get ahead of everyone else except for probably Singapore, but you know, or Brunei. But the thing is, you know, isn't that wishful thinking to say, look, we are going to give up being Malaysia and be ASEAN first?
I'm not saying give up Malaysia. I like the realism you said, but I don't think it's wishful thinking, because the only way for ASEAN to survive, if we want to survive at all, is to take my route. Otherwise, it's impossible to survive. Say if Cambodia takes its own priority, and then the investment from China came hugely to Cambodia, and Prime Minister Hun Sen came along and said, hey, you know, Cambodia first, the rest of ASEAN second. No one would agree with Hun Sen. As a result, it become again even double lame duck. How could you continue when ASEAN is not first? The part has to be willing to subsume to the whole. A bigger commonality is important than the individuality of each country. My feeling is that by saying that we Malaysia second, Thailand second, ASEAN first, doesn't mean we don't love Malaysia as Malaysian citizen or love Thailand as Thai citizen. It's realism of saying that the only way you want to work in a broader kind of linkage is to be willing to consider the commonality.
So if we don't do that, what you're saying is ASEAN might just go the way that OPEC did.
It will be just paper tiger. And I think that my warning has been unceasing for years, and I'm seeing the trend. Unless a change of heart came along, and it takes maturity of leadership. What you were addressing the issue that whether this is wishful thinking for us to take ASEAN first and our own country second, it's not an ASEAN issue, an Asian issue, or a developing country issue. It is a human issue. And whenever a human being self-centric relates to another human being, be it the unit is one individual or a society or a country, you're bound to have conflicts. This is why you have divorce in life, in marriage. When one is taking the individual interest at heart and never think of the another person, I think this kind of maturity need to be in the heart and mind of leadership of ASEAN. And they have to curb themselves to be able to bite their tongue and say, hey, we need to think of the common ASEAN. This is the only way for us to make ASEAN wins. And when ASEAN wins, we win together. Which one do we want? We want us to prosper and our neighbor to not able to do well, or we want to do well together.
So obviously this is an advice to the governments to do the right thing, but do you think, do you think that it is easy to advise governments, especially when we have issues, major issues of corruption, major issues of abuse in power in the ASEAN countries? Do you think that is a mammoth task?
Let me tell you, I am 63 years old. I have seen too much, and I noticed that most of the people in power do not take advice easily, particularly when
do they take advice at all?
Sometimes they do, particularly if they know that it's to their benefit.
Okay.
See, the art of telling them is this, that Mr. Prime Minister, if you don't listen carefully to what I said, it will be detrimental to you eventually, and this is why the reason. And the Prime Minister may say, oh, that's a good idea, I better do it. But you say, Mr. Prime Minister, this is very good for the country, would you do it? Say no. So this is the art of making them realize that it's doing for their own good, but it's good for the country as well. So you have to go deeper one layer to explain to them why you need to do this. And it's not enough to just advise on the content, but to motivate so that advice are taken.
Right. Okay, let's go back to what you call democracy, which might be more interesting. Do you think, ASEAN countries, Asian countries, Thailand, not Philippines, but Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, we have races, we have religions, and we are very loyal to our races and religions. You might be a Chinese, Thai, but you still have that Chinese word. I'm not Thai first. I have Chinese blood. That is the normal conversation that goes on. And then if you're a Muslim, you say, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I'm very proud of that. But do you think that the politicians in these countries, they seem to play a divide and rule? And what do you think of this game that they tend to play in Asian countries? Do you think that we will see an end to this in any time in the future?
To be honest, I think we need mature politicians with wisdom. We need another kind of politician that is a little bit more honorable and not playing the sectarianism in various segmented population labels for their own political benefits. I think we need to enjoy and honor the loyalty that each has to various affiliation that we belong to. I have nothing against affiliation with religion, races, even big or small. We have affiliation, but the affiliation should not be so strong until we blindsided to what should be for the common goods. Therefore, politicians that play all those games usually win in election, but at the detrimental effect for the national well-being eventually. Those kind of politicians, I think they stoop too low. to be elected if the people are wise enough. I guess it's a matter of education, a matter of influencing people to think the right way. I may sound too nebulously idealistic, but I do think that this is the only way to sound. Otherwise, what's the use of doing what we try to do in this political world? I guess, I think no matter how hearted is the politician, there is a small soft element inside. If you stroke him the right way, he may come out as a human being instead of a devil.
Right. Okay. And about elections, the electoral watchdogs in ASEAN say that most countries, Thailand included, Malaysia included, Singapore included, that most, despite us, we have the same parliamentary democracy. They say that elections are rigged, and that these people holding power are not, did not go out there on the vote of the people. What is your take on that? Do you think that the people holding up the Southeast Asia is actually the people that the people voted for?
Again, to win an election by hook or by crook, you could have a title, but you have no honor in it. Election commission around the world increasingly have to do their job to be a fair referee. Fortunately, in my own country, we came further than years ago. It's getting harder and harder to rig election results in Thailand, to be honest. Any other country that can rig easily because the power that we push themselves into the system very strongly and able to control puppets that they set up in election commission. Therefore, you need to have independence of election commissioners for them to be able to do their job, so that their well-being is not tied in with political fate of some party. Unless you set up a proper neutral system where people who are honorable do the job as referee, you're going to have rigged election results. I think that's in human beings. We like to win, and when we are desperate, we do everything we could to win. And if the people are willing to put that aside and accept the result and still honor them that way, then they will be take it for granted that if I win, then everything is okay. I do think social sanction is very important. People should be not to be rude to say bad things to political leadership, but we should honor them according to the proportion of the honor we should accord. If we do that, then it will put pressure on them to make them be more willing to play by the rule. Election results that are rigged everywhere in the world, in many places, are something that is a slap on the face of the population. It depends on you whether you're willing to take a slap. I do think that increasingly the days are coming where the social media is so strong, people are empowered to communicate one-to-one without having to go through the intermediaries. Consequently, it's going to be harder and harder, and the scrutiny is going to be more and more. Therefore, I think it's an ancient art of rigging election results that is still remaining. The dinosaur will go eventually.
Right. Okay. Tell me about your, what do you call this, nation building
institute?
Yes.
Nation Building Institute is an institute dedicated itself to recognizing that the past 100 years, the world has not enough knowledge base for nation building. You notice that very few countries do well. When normally we should do well, it should be exception that we don't do well. But it became the norm that countries don't do well in whatever measurement we call good and noble. Therefore, in comparison, the past 100 years, universities in the US have set up business school that have equipped the business people to do well. And we've seen the result the last 100 years compared to the first 150 years of industrial revolution. I have this idea in mind and have presented to my colleagues at Harvard that I like to see nation building school properly set up.
What is nation building exactly to you?
Nation building is not state building.
Okay.
State building is when you have 4 components and if you can do it well, you have a good state. You have population, you have territory, you have sovereign power, and you have government. When you have these 4, and other states who are well accepted, accept you in, like into the UN, then you become a recognized state. If you do things well, say you have sovereign legal power, you enforce well, then you are a well-running state. But if you don't run well, you become a failing state. And you totally do badly, you a failed state.
Right.
State is taken for granted. If you don't belong to a state, you're a stateless person, you're in trouble.
Right.
Therefore, to be a state is to be desired, but to be a nation that is well built is harder. Nation building is not something that is what you done one time and done.
Is it tangible?
It's dynamic, it's ongoing, and it depends on the goal that you set to measure your nation. Suppose you set a very low bar and you say, I'm building my nation, I'm fine. I want my people not to be hungry, and that's it. Therefore, you're building your nation that way, fine. But my opinion, I don't think there is a clear definition anyway in literature. It's all in conflicts. My own definition would be, you build a nation with clear identity, and that identity has to be something explainable enough that you could be able to say why that identity is important. For example, I would like the identity of my country, Thailand, to be a country of well-being, a country where our people of civility, we have civicness, we have proper norm and values. Economically, we are GDP per head is on par with the first world. We don't have a lot of people under poverty line, hardly any under poverty line. Disparity among the rich and the poor are not so large until it become not possible to coexist properly. Politically, I like to see freedom of political arena. At the same time, we want to see stable political system. We would like to see social cohesion despite variety and diversity of various kind of people.
Right.
So ideas that identity of some sort that you define, that a country gravitate in concerted agreement. Therefore, nation building can mean various things, depends on identity you set. I have set the identity of my own country the way I like, and I'm trying to influence my fellow countrymen that this is the way we should go. And therefore, nation building, in my concept, is building Thailand to become what I call, in my Thai word, Araya country, which is a country of civilness or civility.
How do you spell
civility?
No.
Araya. Araya. In fact, it comes.
What it means? What does it
Araya means, if you put into many cognated terms, it will be civilization, civilness, civic, civil.
Okay.
It could mean participated citizen that move your country into a level where it deemed proper for human dignity to be together as a country, as a nation. So I think nation building is very important, and election coming to win election by just a few policy that you are handing out various policy to move the voters to vote for you just for little things. I think that is, to me, childish. Mature politics should be making a country in the longer term something that is lasting enough and valuable enough for the people to feel like We are living in a country where we don't have to fight just for our own survival. Here, you segment population in election into groups that they need different things, and you hand out policy that meet needs of each group. When you sum up all the mathematics and you win, and then you govern for a period, and you bring the country forward a little bit. What is that? Are you wasting the country and time by occupying and warm the seats and not able to bring the very best to your own people?